Hi, this is It's Your Move, and I'm your host, Lonna Kelly. And today we're going to be talking to Kristine Boyle, who is a nutritionist at the Putnam County Department of Health. And we're going to be talking about healthy eating, good snacks, and different things that you can do to have a healthier lifestyle. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, let's just jump right into it. And my first question for you is, what is a healthy diet?
Well, a healthy diet can be a number of things, but I think the key elements to a healthy diet are that it's varied, that it includes lots of plant foods, especially fruits and vegetables, that it's not too high in salt, fat, or sugar, and that it's the right amount of calories for a person to maintain a healthy weight.
Right, right. You know, I think that thing about the calories is so important because I've never really known how many calories I need to maintain my weight, to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And recently I went to YourPlategov, that website, yeah. And you can put in your height, your weight, your activity level, and it will tell you how many calories you need to either gain weight or maintain your weight. So for me, it said that for my size and activity level, my calories should be about 2,000 calories mm-hmm. a day. Does that sound right to you?
That's a fairly average amount for a somewhat active person. Now, if you were smaller and less active, it might be as low as 1,600 calories. But that, on a lot of serving, on a lot of labels, you will see that as an average amount a person might need.
Right.
So that's, and then for a man, especially an active man, they're going to need more than that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right, great. Yeah. That's a great website to go to figure that out.
Yeah, it's very helpful, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, when you're putting together your plate, when you're doing a mix of foods, making mm-hmm. sure you get a variety, what do you need on it? What are the food groups that you should be pulling your foods from? Yeah.
Okay. So I'd say there's 5 main food groups. It'll be fruits and vegetables, grains, protein foods, and some dairy. So those would be sort of the 5 main foods that you should have at your plate for most meals.
Okay, and fats and oils, what about them? Are they a food group?
Well, I don't think of them as a food group. Small amounts of fats and oils are good for us, but really just a small amount. So mm-hmm. that's why I don't think of them as necessarily a big food group.
Right, right. When I'm sitting down to eat, and I want to put together a healthful plate. Mm-hmm. Any suggestions for what the plate should look at, or any tools that I could use?
Yeah. Well, there's actually a diagram called MyPlate, which you can see at ChooseMyPlate.gov. And it's a picture of a plate that shows that it's divided in half. And on one half, that again is divided in half. So a quarter of your plate should be fruits, another quarter vegetables, or some combination on that half of a plate of fruits and vegetables. A little more than a quarter of your plate, grains, and then a little less than a quarter of your plate, some sort of a protein food, and then accompany that with maybe some sort of a dairy product.
Right, right.
So that's a pretty good guideline.
Yeah, that makes it pretty easy. Then you can just visualize it and set your plate up like that and mm-hmm. get the right mix.
And then you know you're eating a well-balanced diet.
Right.
Yes.
Let's talk a little about protein, because you're saying it should be about a quarter of the plate. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us who eat a typical American diet might have their protein be half the plate, or you know, the ideal is what, a big juicy steak.
Right.
So
that's the standard American sort of mindset, but we really don't need that much protein. So protein foods, I'm going to just kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Protein foods would be meat, fish, or chicken. It's also eggs, but plant foods like soy or beans are also in that category. You really only need probably 2 or 3 ounces, maybe twice a day, and that's more than adequate protein food for just about everybody.
Right.
So yeah, when we have really large portions like 10 ounces, it's a lot more than we need. It's actually not really good for us.
Right. So if I was choosing my protein, you know, is it best to choose something lean or choose something fatty and marbled?
Well, that's a silly question. Lean, yes.
Yeah.
You want to go for lean cuts of meat if you're going to have meat. The round, the loin, those indicate leaner cuts of meat. The cuts of meat that have, you see fat marbled into them, that's an unhealthy kind of fat. It's called saturated fat, and it increases your risk for heart disease.
Okay. So on that topic, saturated fats, what is an example of an unsaturated fat which would be better for you?
Right. So an unsaturated fat is a plant sort of fat. It's a fat that tends to be liquid at room temperature. So a good example would be olive oil or canola oil. Nuts and seeds naturally have fats in them, so when you eat those foods, you're also getting some unsaturated fat.
Okay, I know avocado should be on that list too,
And avocado too, yes,
yeah.
It's a wonderful food.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
as long as you don't eat it with too many corn chips, right? You
Right.
put it into your salads or on your sandwiches,
Right,
things like
right,
that.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Why do we need such a big mix of foods?
Well, each type of food provides you with different, it does different things for your body, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. So carbohydrate foods, which are your grains, your fruits, your vegetables, they're great sources of energy. They're really our body's best sources of energy. And fruits and vegetables and grains also provide us with really important vitamins and minerals you might not get in the other types of foods. Protein foods are very important for our body to repair itself, for us to have a good, healthy immune system, such as we said, the meat, fish, chicken, eggs, or plant foods like soy or beans. And then your dairy products, they're great sources of calcium and are often fortified with vitamin D. Again, different nutrients than you might find in other foods. So that's why eating a variety of foods will help us get the different nutrients that we need.
Okay. Okay. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I usually exercise and then I eat breakfast. And I try to eat a healthful breakfast. I have cereal and fruit and a cup of tea, maybe some juice. But by mid-morning, I'm pretty hungry. So I don't really want to eat something that's going to not be good for me or not be a healthful snack. So what would you suggest, say, for a mid-morning snack?
Well, it depends how hungry you are and when you're going to have your next meal. But a small handful of nuts will really help sustain you in between meals. Some sort of a fruit is a good idea, or even something like just a little piece of cheese and a couple of whole grain crackers. Any of those are great small little snacks that will sustain you to your next meal.
Right, okay, great. And then I could, yeah, usually, you know, I'll have that at something around 10 and then eat at 12:30. So if I don't eat that, I get very cranky.
Right, so you're probably getting a little dip in your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Another great snack some people like is yogurt with a little fruit. So again, sometimes getting a little bit of a protein food like your cheese, your yogurt, or even nuts have some protein, as well as some sort of carbohydrate. So the grains or the fruit are a great way to get yourself through to the next meal.
Yeah. Don't you have to watch yogurt though for added sugars?
Yeah, some of them use preserves. They can add a lot of sugar to it. Really, the plain Greek yogurt is great. It's actually very high in protein. And then add your own fruit. That's probably the best way to go.
Right. So you could just take the plain yogurt and throw in blueberries or strawberries or a mix, cantaloupe.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good tip. One of the things that's hard to figure out sometimes is serving sizes. And I know that we have something that's going to go up on the screen that is serving sizes, and it talks about the hand method, about how to figure out what a serving size is.
Okay. So let me differentiate actually between serving size and portion size.
Okay.
Okay. So serving size is probably what you'll see on the label. It's actually a standard measure. So it's a way to give you an idea of a good amount for you to have in the course of a day, or a good portion size. But the portion that you take is simply how much you take. So for a portion or a serving, let me put it this way. A good tool is your hand. Okay. In figuring out what is a good amount for you. So your fist is about a cup. So for most people, that's a good portion for something like your grain, or maybe potatoes, or even your fruit or vegetable. Then your palm is probably about 3 ounces for most people, maybe 4 ounces, and that's a good size portion. If you're a good way to gauge your portion size for meat, fish, or chicken. Your thumb, a full thumb, is about 1 ounce of cheese. So that's, for a lot of people, they'll look at that and say, "Oh, that's not very much."
Yeah.
But that helps you stick to a good amount. And then the tip of your thumb, from the joint forward, is about a teaspoon, and that's that's like a single serving of fat. So those are pretty good guidelines for helping figure out what's a good amount to have.
Right, that's great. And we all have different size hands, though. How do you cope with that? I mean,
well, we talked about calories before, and how different people need different amounts of calories. So different people will actually need a different serving size. So if you're a larger person, you have a larger hand. So you're going to end up with a slightly larger serving size, which is probably more appropriate for you than a smaller portion size from somebody with a small hand.
Right.
So it sort of balances itself out.
Right, right. Well, that's great. And so I wanted to point out, too, that the palm of your hand is a protein.
Yes.
The size of your protein.
Right.
Which kind of, if you look at your hand, you can imagine that on your plate.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. If you put it down on your plate, it's probably going to be about a quarter of your plate.
Yeah. And another equivalent is a deck of cards sometimes, or a tennis ball for a serving of fruit or grain.
Yep. Those are all good guidelines.
Yeah. It helps too, if you're not a person that can visualize it, to have that concrete example. You know.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention about this topic? Because we're close to our cutoff time.
I think the only other thing that I really think is important for people to keep in mind is I mentioned, for a good balanced diet, you don't want too much sugar or salt. So I just want to throw it out there for those people that are drinking a lot of sugar-sweetened beverages. A really great move you could make to eat in a much healthier manner is to switch to more water. The sugar that you get from sugar-sweetened beverages, all it is what we call empty calories.
Right.
It doesn't do anything for you, and it tends to cause people to gain weight.
Okay.
So that would be my last probably recommendation. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
We're going to be doing another session with Chris, and we're going to talk some more about this topic and talk about sugars and salt, and when you go to the grocery store, maybe reading the labels on your packaging while you're doing it, and maybe some other tips for shopping. So, Chris, I really appreciate your coming, and thank you very much for being here today.
Nice to see you here.
Yeah, thanks.